Welcome to the Beardsman, the show where we talk, mock, and never walk away from the conversation. Woo! I am here with my bearded fellows, a.k.a. the Beardsmen, a.k.a. hot and cold and middle of the road. Spencer and Anthony.
What's up, guys? I'm Spence.
My name is Mink, and like JR said, we're the founders at Live Bearded. And, you know, over the last 7 years, our favorite part of running this company has been connecting with our community, having random conversations with dudes from all over the place. And we thought we would start this podcast to really bring the conversation to you, talk about the experience of being a man in the world today. It's crazy out there. There's all types of shit going on.
But we're here to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Segment is really, it's an Ask Us Anything, right? We're going to open up the conversation to any topics you guys throw at us, whether it's men's lifestyle related, Live Bearded topics, behind the scenes stuff, product stuff, you know, mindset, personal development, fitness, health, wellness, literally anything you can ask us.
Pop culture stuff.
And we're gonna answer it to the best of our ability. JR, if they have questions, how are they going to get them to us?
If you have questions, you can submit them by emailing us at ask@livebearded.com or put it in the comments below, and we'll see it that way too. But send us an email. It's fun.
There you go. How you guys doing?
Good, man. How you guys doing? What's
Great.
new, JR? What's new? What's new?
Oh, Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dude, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday. It's my favorite.
break it down. Why is it your favorite?
Because the turkey, like, it is the best meal all year. I fucking love turkey. All right? Turkey stuffing, and, like, rolls. Like, that's all I
That's
need.
it.
Like, I don't care about cranberries. I don't care about, like, all the extra greens. Just turkey stuff. Oh, you can have mashed potatoes, too.
Okay.
But, like, oh, and then the leftovers that come after.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You
the
just
best.
keep eating. You
Yeah.
just keep eating.
You have, like, a Thanksgiving meal for, like, the next week with all the leftovers.
So with the holiday change, because you could technically eat turkey for Christmas.
You could.
eat
Oh,
turkey
I do
for
it all
other
the time.
holidays. But
I
is
do it all the time. I
Okay.
tell Tav, like, hey, let's do another turkey dinner for Christmas. She's like, okay.
Okay. Love turkey. All right.
Yeah.
I
So-
don't know that I've ever heard someone be that emphatic about turkey. Like, your
It's
enthusiasm
great.
for turkey
So
is
is there-
top notch right now.
Is there no ham on the table? It's just turkey only? What's the approach
My
here?
wife's family is ham.
Okay, so you gotta
they
split it up.
love it. They do
Okay.
ham for Christmas. That was
Okay.
their thing. But when it's just me and my wife,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we're gonna do turkey again.
Is the tryptophan a real thing? That they get sleepy after turkey? Do you guys know? Is
I
that
re-
real, or is that just because you overeat and you indulge in
I
all
remember
the things?
reading that. That's like the thing that they always talked about. But when you look at it, there's not enough unless you eat like an entire
20
turkey.
pounds of turkey.
Yeah.
Okay.
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
But dogs can get tripped up by it too.
Okay. With Thanksgiving comes Black Friday, and being an e-commerce brand, shit's a little. We got a few things going on here around Live Bearded.
Well, I'm doing great. All my content's done. I don't know what you guys are. Come on.
Yeah, we're just talking before we started here. Is like the calm before the storm, right?
Yeah.
Black Friday, pre-Black Friday. It's a crazy time of year for us, and we've been prepping. We're arguably more prepared this year than we've ever been. So all the operations, the products are landing way ahead of time. The content's ahead of time. Marketing, and now it's like it's about to go live. I guess tomorrow.
Yeah.
See how
Yeah,
see
'cause
how we did.
pre-sale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting, and I feel like to some degree, Black Friday or Cyber, whatever, like it affects most businesses in the country today, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody's trying to do a sale or do something. I think there's probably a handful of people that don't, but when you've got, family, then you've got the holiday shopping from the consumer side, then you got the business side, definitely just a super busy week. And from my perspective, it's like as a business owner, you're always like, man, what's going to happen? How's it going to go? Like you have some idea,
Yeah.
you do all the work in advance, but you never really know what's going to happen. And historically, Black Friday is the biggest day sales-wise of the year.
Yeah.
And every year it's been bigger, so it ends up being the biggest sales day in company history.
Yeah.
Every
Tomorrow,
year,
baby, let's go.
which is definitely exciting to see that momentum and that growth.
Exciting.
Yeah, and here at Live
Not
Bearded,
stressful.
we're purist, okay? None of this like Black Friday for the whole month of November. So many companies now, it's like they start their sales in October. We like to be a little bit more purist in that regard. We are doing a pre-Black Friday, but stay true to the tradition,
Yeah, but you're not derailing Thanksgiving dinner
correct,
from it.
Correct. Well, how weird is it that literally just a few years ago, Black Friday was Thanksgiving, and people were like sleeping outside all night long or going at 2 a.m. to get in line at Best Buy to get deals because that's where Black Friday deals came from, right? It's like in-store retail only. Now online e-com came around, and now it's like just jump on the keyboard.
That's a dumb thing to do because they kept on pushing it. It's like, okay, we're going to do it Wednesday or not Wednesday. They're going to do Thursday at 6 p.m. and stuff. It's like, that's right at dinner time on Thanksgiving. And then they keep on pushing it earlier and earlier. It's like, no, let's just create all of the demand at like one particular time. Have that Friday and basically that whole weekend is Black Friday.
Yeah.
It's a fun time of year.
Yeah. Push all the demand to
It
Friday.
is interesting though how everyone continues to try to like slide it forward, and I think to your point of being a purist, like just having one thing be on a day and that day is the day.
That's the day.
You know, it's like
That's the day.
I think that is valuable, and now it's Black Friday week, Black Friday month, Black Friday
I get
year.
it. Marketers are like,
You know?
no, we got to get their money before they spend it with other brands. Let's move it forward, and then you keep moving it forward, and now it's
It's like girls who celebrate their birth week, not their birthday.
I got to extend it.
And then you have some
Squeeze.
chicks that celebrate their
birth month.
birth month. It's like,
You know, it's
no.
like, yo.
You get one day, and all your friends, they'll make it all about you that one day. That's
one day.
all you get.
And then it's somebody else's day.
Yeah.
Damn it.
There's more than you in this world.
Oh, yeah.
You guys got any fun Thanksgiving plans? I mean, I know JR's eating 2 turkeys.
Lots of turkey for JR. I don't think
Lots
I'm going to
of
be able to
turkey.
eat turkey and not be like, man, I wonder if JR is enjoying his turkey right now.
What's your favorite holiday dessert?
Holiday dessert.
No Minx is pumpkin pie.
That is right. Yeah, because you made pumpkin pie. Monkey bread for me. Christmas monkey bread. Taking that, roll it up, put it in the pan. I can't even.
dessert.
It's like the Pillsbury Doughboy rolls
The
or
crescent
something.
rolls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not crescent rolls. It's I think it's what you use to bake like biscuits or something.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
you take that, but you like cut it in half or quarters or something, and you roll it in cinnamon sugar, put some butter, and throw it in a
Oh.
pan.
Oh.
Monkey bread, though, you just have these
Pull off,
little
yeah.
delicious cinnamon sugar balls.
Yeah.
Cinnamon sugar balls.
Cinnamon sugar balls.
Better than salty balls.
Better than which is in Uranus Attacks. Salty balls.
Salty balls?
Yeah, they make an appearance. I can't give it away yet. I'm sorry. Another shameless plug for Uranus Attacks coming soon. What about you? What's your favorite dessert?
Favorite dessert? Thanksgiving dessert? I mean, pumpkin pie is classic OG. Some whipped cream on top. Can't go wrong.
Pumpkin pie.
I used to hate pecan pie. My family loved it, and it was always around as a kid. I never liked it, but I actually really appreciate it now.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
great.
if that's it's great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think nuts.
I
ruin
hated it
every
before.
dessert.
Hated it. No, but now it's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
Why is it
Palate
delicious?
palate changes, I guess, as we
What's
get
your
older.
deal with nuts, JR?
You know?
What's your problem with it?
I think nuts just ruin every dessert. If someone throws some almonds or pecans or walnuts and brownies, I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? It was a perfectly good dessert before. I don't want some nuts in my mouth, all right? I want the brownie, I want the flour,
All
I want
right,
the sugar.
We need to ask the audience, guys. Do you like nuts in your mouth or not?
Yeah. Put it in the comments below.
Nuts in your
if you
dessert
want
in your
nuts
mouth.
in your mouth, in your dessert. Whatever, or I don't know. You
Some order. You decide.
yeah, whatever
All right,
order.
I think we should probably move on to that.
All right, we
Yeah.
got questions. This is, ask us anything.
What
I don't know.
questions we got?
I don't think they're
Yeah.
asking about nuts in the mouth, but
Yeah, let's go to the community. Our first question from the community here comes from Sam. Yeah, Sam. Sam said, in the current climate, it can be challenging to navigate political discussions without getting too heated. How can we engage in constructive conversations about important issues with friends and family? What a great question for the holiday that's approaching.
because it's inevitably going to come up during the
Right.
Thanksgiving meal, right?
Yep, if you have a big family, everyone's going to have different opinions,
Yeah.
especially as adults.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's kind of, I think sometimes there's this idea of like, oh, we don't talk about that around Uncle James or Spence or Dad or whatever. And I just think that's the most ignorant approach to life, personally. And I get that, maybe there's just certain topics of discussion that it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't make sense because you're never going to be able to have a cordial conversation. But objectively speaking, I think that's a horrible way to approach life, because if you're constantly avoiding topics of discussion, then I think it creates a vacuum. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but it leads to ignorance. Like if you're like, oh, we don't talk about that, or we don't talk about this, or we don't do this. I heard a quote a while back, and I think it's really relevant to this question. The sign of true intelligence is being able to hold two opposing ideas in your mind and understand and appreciate both of the perspectives. So Republican, Democrat. Like, I can understand why one would feel that way. I can understand why one would feel this way. I can objectively see their perspective. And I can agree to disagree or appreciate one, but lean more in another way. I think, and I really think somewhere along the way, we lost our ability to do this because people get so attached to an individual idea or lifestyle or perspective.
It's such a part of their identity.
Yeah.
They can't separate it and say, I think this way, I feel this way. It's who they are. And that creates the polarity.
Yeah, this is, I think, the biggest challenge that causes the divisiveness in the world today. If we rewind back to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? And again, it said political, right? But you could put lifestyle, sexual, vegans, vegetarians. Like, you could put any different...
any differing opinion, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 10 years ago, it was like, oh, my preference is I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, or you're a Democrat, not whatever it is, right? It's like, and that was just a preference that we had. My preference is I like to eat fucking steak. Your preference is you're plant-based, right? Or
It's
whatever.
It's not true.
Whatever it might be. And somewhere along the line, we started to adopt those preferences as our identity.
Yes.
And so now I'm not someone that prefers meat. I'm a fucking carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not someone that's plant-based, but like
vegan.
I'm a vegan and I don't talk to those assholes that eat meat and they're killing the planet and they're so cruel and all it's like, yo, it's a fucking lifestyle preference. It's not an identity. And I think that's where I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, as you guys know, and he talks a lot about identity. And he says people will violate their values to act within their identity. And this is why, like, if someone says my value is family and it's Thanksgiving and I love them and I can't wait to see my family, but if their identity is different from someone in their family, that identity will actually cause a fracture between the value of family and the way that they actually perceive things. And that's how you get people that don't get invited to Thanksgiving dinner because they're a Biden supporter or a Trump supporter or whatever. It's like, how could you fucking support that motherfucker? Like, you're an idiot. You're uninvited. Like, we're not talking about, you know what I mean? Like, however it ends up going, it's because that identity has become so strong that they only see the world through that perspective. And that operates in a vacuum, in a very narrow perspective. It's like if we put on glasses and they blocked out all the red lights and all you saw was blues, then there's nothing in the world that's red. And so everything has a tone of blue. And when someone says like, oh, look how beautiful that, red flower is, you're like, there's no red flower. It's like you only see through the lens of blue and vice versa. The exact opposite. You only have a lens of red. And so it is very dangerous and it's very destructive. And I think the best thing that we can do is step back objectively from our emotional reactions to things and look at things and try to appreciate someone else's perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece is like try to step into their shoes. I think if you're engaging in a conversation that's the opposite side, be curious as to hearing out why they feel that way. And if they truly do feel that way, you should be able to have an intelligent, respectful conversation where they share their side and maybe open your eyes to their perspective, but with the respect and a little grace, like you can have a conversation around those things if you're curious and you're not just shutting them down like, oh, you're ignorant, you're an asshole for thinking that way. It's like, well, that's interesting. Like, I'd love to learn more about why you feel that way and handle it with a little bit of care rather than the instant cancellation, right? Because so many people, it's like you say one fucking thing and it's like they want to cancel you immediately. It's like, how? That's not the response, right? You
Grab
can
the
learn from
torches.
each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think we've all had an experience where someone has said something to us and it caused an immediate internal disturbance, an immediate reaction. Like you almost like jump out at wanting to respond, right? And I think the best thing that we can do is when someone causes that type of reaction in us is to actually just take a metaphorical step back and be like, what about what he just said caused me to react in that way? Oh. And I think just by checking yourself, you can actually start to hear people and try to understand their perspective.
And look, they could be totally fucking wrong, right? But if you react that way and cancel them and reject, you're going to turn them off. They're never going to want to listen to your side. But if you actually hear them out, right? have a respectful conversation, you could actually educate your side after they get to voice their side and maybe open their eyes to your perspective, right? But handled with respect, otherwise they're just going to cancel and shut you down. And you're never going to be able to actually give your side.
Yeah. It's interesting. So two things. One, I love this guy named Naval Ravikant, an incredible thinker, kind of an entrepreneur, Silicon Valley guy. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and they were kind of talking about some of this stuff. And he said, objectively speaking, if you aren't Democrat when you're young, you don't have a heart. And if you're not Republican when you're older, you don't have a brain. And he's like, because if you look objectively speaking at all of the policies and kind of like ideologies of, say, a Democrat Party, it is very much heart-centered. It's emotional-centered. It's like, we want to take care of everybody. We want to support everybody. Everybody needs this. Everybody needs that. We should collectively be able to give them all of these things. And so it's very easy to get attached emotionally to those ideas because they genuinely, like, if economic principles didn't matter, their ideas are phenomenal. Like, oh, how do we, let's give everybody free everything. Like, amazing. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's support these people, take care of them. Objectively speaking, it's amazing. And when you're younger and you don't understand taxes and fiscal responsibility and things like that, it's like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Then as you get older and it's like, wait, they're taking how much of my paycheck? I'm working 20, 30, 40, 50% of the time for free. Like, that's crazy to me. And objectively think about this. Like, if you're in any income bracket, whatever it is, let's say your tax bracket is 25%, that means 25% of your time you're working for free. If you make more money and you're in the 50% bracket, when you factor in taxes with states, local, federal, etc., half of the time you're working for free. That's insane, right? So then you start to objectively think about that and you're like, wait, you're already taking X percentage of my budget and that's going to all these things that I don't even know where it's going. It's just like a black hole.
That's the piece, right? Because if you work 25% to help contribute in ways that weren't aligned with where you want to support, but when spending and the powers that be spin it in ways that who the fuck knows where it's going or for the right causes, that's where it's fucking painful.
Yeah. So I appreciated that perspective from him because he's trying to illustrate that, like, both sides are valid, both perspectives. Again, the question was specifically like around political divisiveness, but we have to be able to appreciate both perspectives and then understand how to talk about them in a way that's non-emotional or non-reactionary. And I think that's honestly because of social media and the way that we engage most of the time today, people don't know how to have a non-emotional, non-reaction filled conversation. Just like, to your point, get curious. Like, that's fascinating. Why do you feel that way? Tell me more. Oh, that's crazy. Let's, let me know about that. What is it? How do you come up with that conclusion? And so I think being non-emotional and being able to just sit back and listen.
Trying to detach the identity.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we do that, but we need to do it.
I think people have an unhealthy relationship now with the idea of conflict. Like, when you think of conflict, you think of like fighting, argumentative things, but you need conflict to grow.
It's, 100%.
Like, I mean, it's how they wrote the Constitution, right? You had a whole bunch of they weren't, I don't know, a bunch of founding fathers arguing and yelling at each other around a room for who knows how long. But I mean, it's conflict. Conflict's healthy. So when you approach conversations, knowing that, like, you're going to conflict on ideas, but it's not a personal attack against you. Right. And you seek to understand their side of things, and then you guys end up finding the right idea, or the right way to have a conversation.
Yeah, so I think to summarize, one, I think the most important thing is to be able to understand and appreciate different perspectives, to try to put yourself in their shoes and understand why they're coming from that, like why they feel that way. I think that's number one. Number two is checking your emotional reaction to conversations that stir you up because you have strong opinions and beliefs. And then I think the best way to end this topic or this question is, I saw this post from Keanu Reeves, and it was like a quote of him. And he said, "I've reached a point in my life where I have zero desire to argue with anybody. If someone tells me 1 + 1 = 5, I smile at them and walk away." And it's just like, how fucking true is that? There's going to be some people that no matter how much common sense or logic or fact, there's the truth, there's his truth, your truth, and the truth. Yeah. And sometimes the truth is their 1 + 1 is going to be 5, no matter what the fuck you think or say. Sometimes my truth is going to be 1 + 1 = 5 to someone else. And just understanding when we can have a discord, but then also when the fuck we can just walk away. And
which is always, you can always walk away. You don't have to.
for sure. Yeah. Interesting topic for sure. It's
Yeah.
very,
Definitely.
very relevant to the world today. And I think the more awareness we can bring to the reactions we have to things, the better. And you said you don't know how you develop it. I think it's just by developing it over time like a muscle, like you catch yourself. Just like you're going to go for a run and train, you know, if you're training for a marathon, you're going to train miles on the track, you're just going to run. Same thing here is like the way we train our emotional response to things is just by catching it and trying to learn and grow and evolve.
Yeah, let's follow up on this next week and see,
See how the
have any
conversations went.
conversations we have with our family that get heated. All right, and then if they go bad, we can always throw that family member under the bus. Throw it out. Hey, if you don't do that, I'm going to talk you on the Beardsman. Thanks, Sam. Our next
Thanks,
question.
Sam. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, our next question is: I've been feeling disconnected from my friends lately. How can I maintain and strengthen meaningful friendships as I get older and life gets busier? From Dale.
It's a great question.
What do you think, Spence?
Life gets busy. How can you? Yeah. I mean, look, it's funny. We talked about this before. When you're growing up, you have all the friends in the world, middle school, high school, college even. And then as we grow, lives happen, families happen, businesses happen. You get moved, relocated, whatever it is. And your circle of influence and friends diminishes. And I think as human beings, especially as men, but as humans, we crave that connectivity and that tribe and that group of people we can connect with. It does get fucking harder as we get older. And really what it means is you just have to be way more intentional with how you're reaching out to make things happen. Like we used to be able to just say, hey bro, what are you doing tonight? You want to go grab a bite to eat? The stage of life I'm in, that doesn't really work. Like I'm working off a calendar, I'm working off of, planning things. And so it's easy to, if you don't plan and be intentional, to go weeks without seeing and connecting with friends. So my advice, what I try to do is just be extremely intentional with the friends that you want to connect with and keep them in your circle. Reach out to them. I actually have a little calendar on my calendar. I've got a block of time in the evenings to outreach to certain friends. And I've got a list of friends that I want to stay in contact with, and I just kind of work through that rotation because it's easy for people to reach out when it's convenient or they want something, but it's the random touch points. It's being there when they're going through a hard time. I think if somebody you're with or want to stay in contact with is going through a hard time, if you don't reach out and support or like be there for them during that, they're going to remember that. And so trying to make sure that the relationships you're building are intentional and that, you're finding ways you're building with things into your system, into your days to stay in contact. So for me, it's outreach. It's the end of the day. I just kind of send a text, do a phone call, do a video and send that out. But it gets harder, man, because life gets busy, businesses, families, kids, all those things. And before you know it, weeks go by and you lose that connection with people. So,
Yeah, I think trying to be always try to be like the first one just to reach out, even if it's just like same thing happens to me moving back to Arizona. I have a whole mess of cousins here that I just haven't seen
Yep.
or heard from years. So I get back here and they're treating me great. It's like I never left or something, but then it just like, man, I felt guilty. I was like, man, I never even shot them a text. I never tried to like reach out or talk to her, see how they were doing. Like I would sometimes see them on social media. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So like it reminded me, like I just got to be the first one to reach out, even if it's just text, being like, "Hey, hi, what's up?" or "I'm doing something this weekend." Even if they can't go, it's like, "Hey, at least I'm talking. At least there's a dialogue, so it doesn't feel so strange when you text them."
Yeah. Well, and your circle gets smaller as you get. I mean, as you get older, I think if you're learning and growing and evolving as a human, you're going to outgrow and kind of grow out of some circles of friends, and I think that's a totally natural, healthy thing. It's an interesting process to go through for sure.
Yeah, I think just understanding how things change is important. For example, I think, we started and when we started the business, we were in kind of the same stage of life.
Mm-hmm.
Now our lives have been changed in very different ways, like married, kids on the way, all these things. And I'm not in that position. And so it's interesting because I'm like the last single guy of all my friends. And what I've realized is the way that I have to engage with them is very different than it was before because of schedules and times. And now, like, I'm so busy with the company and things that I'm doing in my life, there's just, to your point, very little free time. And so I think the number one way that I have that I would answer this question is by understanding that, like, as your life changes, how you engage with people is going to change. And that doesn't mean that you like them or they like you any more or less. It just means that you have to be more intentional. Yeah. And I like your idea of just being super intentional with time and making commitments to do things. And I think, just trying to put something like with a couple of my really good friends, we have like a couple of touch points throughout the month. It's like, hey, we're gonna always try to grab dinner, on this day or get together on this day, and it's just like it's kind of not set in stone, but kind of like loose plans that we just have. And it's like, oh, I know I'm gonna see my buddy Ravi probably once or twice a month for dinner. I know I'm gonna hang out with Jason once or twice on the weekend, see the kids, like, and so I just kind of make space for these things and then just allow them to evolve. If it comes up, cool. If it works, it doesn't. But I think it's, to your point, when you're younger, you don't have to have any intention with the way that you hang out with your friends. And then as we get older, our lives get busier. We just have to have a lot more intention and then understand that it has not, like, oftentimes I think people get frustrated because maybe they haven't heard from someone right away, or you haven't heard from someone, or whatever. And it's just like, just don't take it personal. Yeah. I think we're all busy now more than ever. And so I would say don't take things personal. Understand that, as life changes, you have to be more intentional with the things that you want to do.
Yeah. And have the right expectations, right? Like as you get older, that group is going to diminish and get smaller. In my opinion, like for me, I'm optimizing business, family, and like the friend group is important for me to continue to have, but I don't need 30 friends that I stay in contact with and see all the time, right? It can be a much smaller group, but have much deeper connections and relationships. And that's how I can try to prioritize, because you don't have time to do all the things, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Thanks, Dale. That's a great question.
Dale.
thanks, brother Dale.
And it sounds like we need to get Anthony caught up to where we are in life. So, ladies, you heard it here first. Please submit your applications to ask@livebearded.com.
Did we ever tell you? You don't know this story. When we were going to start Live Bearded, when we started Live Bearded, we were trying to come up with new ideas, marketing, etc.
Oh God.
And dating apps in 2016 were starting to become pretty popular.
Oh, they were.
Right? Like that was still pretty early on, right? There was
Yeah.
I think Tinder maybe that was
maybe,
it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
when we came up, we were like, what if we created a dating app for bearded dudes and women that love them? There's fucking
All bearded
farmers,
dudes.
But that would work.
There's
If you
farmers
said that-
only
yeah,
and
farmers
shit,
only. That works.
If farmers only works,
Beard love can work.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were gonna buy beardlove.com. It was like $3 or $4 grand, and we were like, "This is perfect." And it's all the bearded dudes and the women that love them. And it was we were gonna roll it out. It was Live Bearded was gonna be the official sponsor. It was gonna be similar but different business. And then we were like, we have no business creating a dating app. We don't have a fucking clue what we're doing.
I mean, you built the Live Bearded. I'm not telling you to re-go into this business again, but you created
all
a
wrong.
bearded community already. I can't imagine creating a dating app any
Is
different.
it still available?
I'm checking right now.
Gotta check.
I imagine it would be much easier to create a dating app now.
Oh, probably.
yeah.
There's probably all
These
these
fucking assholes.
they bought it.
No, they're just charging more money for the domain now. It
What do they
was
want?
3,000. Now they want 7,000.
Oh, those
6,400 to be exact.
Okay.
dicks.
But yeah,
beardlove.com.
beardlove. If you like the idea, if you would use beardlove.com,
Hit the like.
hit
comment.
drop us a comment, below. Email us and let us know you want a bearded dating app.
Never say never.
Yeah, I mean,
it might resurface.
it could.
if we get enough comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
We have a big. I mean, we've got a lot of bearded dudes that we can flood into the thing. We got a lot of women that follow us that love bearded dudes.
Yeah.
It could be a
The trick, I mean, bearded guys would sign up no problem.
Yeah.
The
key
trick
would be
is,
trick
how
is
do
to
we-
get the women.
how do we get
how
the
do we get the
women
women?
signed up?
No, let's not hash this marketing plan.
Next question.
Let's go to the next question. We could probably spend another hour just on the marketing tactics.
Get a napkin. We can just jot down the business plan. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Our next question comes from Bruce. Bruce asked, as someone who values traditional masculinity, how do you think modern society's changing expectations of men impact our self-image and identity?
That's a loaded question.
That's
There's
a
a
big
lot of
question.
perspectives. We have to, we'd have to see what the expectation is, because I think different people have different expectations of what man is.
Yeah.
But if we go with traditional, really traditional, I guess the bare basic thing is man has a job, man provides for family. And if we throw the woman as the primary
Family, caregiver, support.
child caregiver.
Yeah, the way I think about this is I think there's some core values that men traditionally should live their life by. honor being like one of the most important things. And there's this idea of like, we as men understand what honor means to some degree. It's like honoring our fathers, our names, honoring a certain lifestyle, a belief set. Like honor is very ingrained into men. And there's a doctor, Allison Armstrong, who says that women don't actually have any honor because of the way that we evolved. Men were required to conform to like a moral code or a value set or like a band of brotherhood. And like a bunch of men get together and we say, you do this, you don't do this. You do this, we fucking kill you. You're cut out of the group. You blah, blah, blah. Right? Like,
which is so much worse, getting cut out.
Yeah, 100%. So there's like a constraint that is the code of honor, and you have to live within that. And she talks about how women don't have that because throughout history, they're like, basically the way that they survived and stayed alive was just to conform to whatever the honor code of the leaders were, of the men were.
If that became a new leader, that would become
right.
honored.
So as you like, if you have one group of like, if the fucking Romans are out here conquering all of the freaking, different tribes back in the day, whatever that honor code was of that tribe, the men are killed. Now the woman just conforms to the honor code of like the Romans or whatever. So it's very interesting. But I think throughout all of masculine evolution, there's been a code of honor that you have to subscribe to. So I think honoring our value set, honoring our communities, our brotherhood, whatever that is critical. I think every man has a sense of duty to protect and provide for their family and their loved ones. I think it's every man's responsibility to become strong so that they can follow an honor code and fulfill their duty. So strength is mentally, physically, emotionally, like being able to provide that strength for the people that they take care of. Courage. I think throughout history, men have been called to step into dangerous and challenging situations, places of life or death or fear. I think we have to operate from a code of courage. And then I would say loyalty is a big one as well, right? And loyalty and honor kind of go together, but they could be different in the sense that we're loyal to a code, to a brotherhood, to a family, to a community. So I'd say honor, duty, strength, courage, and loyalty. I think that would be what I would classify as like traditional masculine values. And then that creates the framework for us to live our life in a strong, courageous, honorable way where we have the facility inside of us, mental, emotional, physical strength to be able to protect and provide for our family. I think today those values aren't as ingrained or as important. Like, what are men honorable to today when someone is telling them that they can have anything that they want, they can do whatever they want, they can, they don't have to protect and provide anybody, they don't have to do anything but be selfish, right? So I think we're living in a world where hedonism and pleasure seeking is kind of the primary driving force for most people. And there's a lot of selfishness that exists in our society through selfie culture, social media culture, etc. So when you don't have something to be honorable to, the only thing that you're honoring is yourself, and that turns into like very ego-driven, self-serving driven behaviors. So I think that's a big problem. There isn't like this call to arms or to strength in the world today. Like there isn't this idea of being mentally, physically, and emotionally strong. It's actually, I think, encouraged to be the other thing. Oh, you need to be able to be in touch with your emotions and talk about how you feel and express yourself, and it's okay to be sad and all these things. That's not to say that men can't feel emotions, but when men don't have control over their emotions, they fucking go violent. They get violent. They shoot up things. They fucking... like the weakest men in society are the ones that create the most heinous crimes, in my opinion. They're the ones that rape, that kill, that resort to all sorts of terrible behaviors because they don't feel any power and they're driven by their emotions. But I think in general, I think there's a big, and this is something that I talk a lot about through kind of the whole entitled to nothing stuff, is when we don't have any power, when we feel powerless in our life, when life is, when we're in a state of chaos where we feel like we don't control our surroundings or our environment, when we just don't feel seen or heard and we don't feel like we're important or we have any control of things, that's where we're at our worst. And I think the way that you transcend that situation is by having a sense of honor, is by having a duty that you're going to fulfill, by working to be mentally and emotionally strong. And then having a community of men, like we were just talking about, that you're loyal to, that hold each other accountable to push and grow. So I don't even remember what the original question was. I know it was about masculinity and how now it's like we're losing track of that. I think we're losing track of what traditional masculinity means is because we're in a new era where how we're conditioned to behave is very, very different than at any other point in time in history. And so we don't have to have the same moral or honor or values that we used to. And so I think people are like really trying to find out what it means. And then one of my beliefs is, I know I'm on my soapbox here and I'm getting long-winded, but one of my beliefs is if you don't define who you are and who you want to be, the world is going to misinform you. So now we have a lot of people that they don't even conceptually know that they could go out and define, I want to be this type of man. I'm going to live my life with these types of values. These are the types of behaviors I'm going to do. These are the types of behaviors I'm not going to do. That's not like something that's taught to most people. So what do? We model behavior of others. And whether, you have a certain lifestyle or celebrity or athlete or particular person that you like, oh, that guy's cool, I'm going to look up to him. We start to model some of those behaviors that we see in the world. And unfortunately, there's a fuckload of really bad behaviors and quote celebrities or people that are influencers that are not modeling behaviors that I think actually promote the fulfillment of being a man.
Yeah. Mr. Beast.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know where to go from there. There's a lot out there to try to unpack some of that.
Yeah, just to how do you think, I just want to say it again. How do you think modern society's changing expectations of men impact our self-image and identity? And I think that's true. I think the expectation today is, bare minimum expectation, every branch has its own thing, but men have to be more vocal with their emotions. They have to be more vulnerable in a way that's goes away from the traditional sense, and it makes men uncomfortable, and some of them dig their heels in I don't want to do that, but I don't know.
And when you're saying they have to be, you're saying they're expected to based on societal norms of how masculinity is kind of transcended from traditional masculine values to the world we live in today.
And when we say societal norms, I'm just talking it's the loudest voice. You're saying men need to be this way, but that's the only voice that's most of America is very middle of the road with everything.
But the vocal ones are on the
the vocal ones are saying this, but just know 50% of America doesn't care on the ends of the spectrum. They just are thinking about themselves.
Yeah, it's obviously fascinating. I think we can peel back a lot of layers here. I think back of, you look at pre-industrial revolution, you look at when we were working in the crops and the fields as Americans, boys were raised by men, right? They had leaders, they had fathers, uncles, grandfathers that they learned skills from, work ethic and masculine traits from their immediate family members being male. You go now we're working in factories, now we're like school systems, now fathers are going off to work. And a lot of boys were raised by their mothers, and a lot of boys were then into schools, which are predominantly, women at the time and still. And so it's interesting to kind of look back in history and see how I think a lot of the men today weren't properly raised by men and really given that rite of passage into manhood, right? You don't become a man because you're suddenly got hair on your balls, right? You become a man through your growth and evolution and your learnings. And I think if you look at a lot of cultures around the world, it's a really sacred process to become a man. A lot of tribes, you go back in history, a lot of areas around the world. In American culture, we don't have that transfer of manhood. And I think to your point of if you don't know who you are, the world can misinform you. If you're seeing what's going on social media and stuff, you can be misinformed about what you should be doing, how you should be acting. And if you don't have a strong role model or male role model to help you kind of learn what it means to be a man, you can be misinformed. And the loud ones, to your point, those are the ones that are creating the content and speaking out and changing the expectations. So it's really fascinating because I think we're seeing a lot of men today who didn't have that true masculine leader that they can learn from and kind of transition into manhood. And that creates, I don't want to say weak men, but it creates men that don't know who the fuck they are, and they can be misinformed through kind of what's trending or what's current or whoever's got the loudest fucking voice that's steering them in that direction.
I think serving others is a trait that men should always have. Having honor, being loyal, being trustworthy. Those are all things that, like, you know, if society's leaning away from it, don't go that way. That's that's never good for anyone.
Yeah, like what?
Hold true to your values.
What in modern U.S. culture is telling men that they need to have a sense of honor or duty to something? Like, what is that? It just generally speaking.
Maybe
you know?
the NFL, but still not quite. Not quite. It's
You know, it's
I mean, in sports, maybe like you would get that playing
yeah,
sports or
in
through
sports,
things,
but like
right?
every player's not even loyal to that team because they're gone after like what,
Yeah.
2 or
That's
3
changed.
years?
Yeah. Gone are the days where you're like on the team and that's your ride or die. Like you're, you know what I mean?
Steph Curry is like forever like ingrained in San Francisco because it's where he was drafted. That's where he stayed. That's where he's won his
That's
championships.
rare in the world we live in today.
Very rare.
20 years ago, like you get drafted, like you're a Phoenix Sun, you're a Chicago Bulls. Like, do you identify you're part of that tribe, and that's who you're going to be with for your career for the most part?
Yeah. Who do people love
happen.
more, Steph Curry or LeBron James?
Yeah,
At least in the cities where they reside.
yeah, yeah.
Like
that's
as soon as LeBron James is out of LA people won't care about him. If Steph Curry moved away, people would be heartbroken.
yeah. But where else do you get it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
else
don't
do you
know.
get
When I think about just broadly in our society, right? There isn't a like conforming code. We used to be a very patriotic country, right? Like fucking America. We love living here, land of the free, home of the brave. 20 years ago, right? Like I pledge allegiance to the flag. Like I mean, I did that shit my entire childhood growing up in school. And so there was at least this honor or duty to our country. That's gone. Like fucking you watch the riots and the crazy shit that's going on. Half the people talk about how they hate living here and they hate it, but yet they don't want to go anywhere else. You know, so it's like where the only place you get it are there isn't, I guess maybe a better way to say it is there isn't a global or universal code of honor or duty in our country or maybe even in the world today. Everything is very siloed into the individual identities, right? And so then that's where the polarization happens. Oh, well, I believe this party is right. So my honor or my duty is to like follow them blindly with all things because that's the only thing in my life that is has a sense of honor or sense of conduct. And so I'm just going to do what they say or I'm going to believe this. I'm not going to allow myself to get outside of anything else. So it can compound in a negative way if you're in a very, I think, if you're in a vacuum, if you will, right? An echo chamber, sort of speak.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it just goes back to people not really being intentional with how they want to live their life and also having bad role models and not knowing or being taught how to grow up with a common set of values.
Good stuff. Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
I think we answered his question, right?
We
best we
said
could.
some words.
Bruce,
I hope
hold
that
true
helps.
to your values. Hold true to values that men
Yeah.
hold dear. Honor,
I think
service.
if we were to sum it up, I think traditional masculinity was living by a specific code of values or code of conduct. And now, like modern masculinity has no specific code of conduct and very little role models that are actually leading in a way that we would want to follow.
Or at least role models who are broadly advertised.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. I think we got it.
Cool. Thanks,
There you
Bruce.
go, Bruce. Thank you.
That's 3.
Speaking of men who hold values,
The Do Better Dude.
yes.
All right, guys, this next segment, we love highlighting guys that are out there in the world doing positive shit because there's a lot of chaos and you turn on the news or social media, it's kind of a shit sandwich sometimes. So we like to highlight a Do Better Dude who's out in the community doing something great. And JR brings him in. We talk about him, acknowledge and recognize, and pay our respects. Who we got this week?
All right. Our Do Better Dude this week. November 19th, 2022.
Chilly evening.
Information technician second class Thomas James is in Colorado Springs at Club Q when a gunman opens fire in the club. Very dark way to start Do Better Dude, but it gets better. Right. It is a mass shooting that takes place. People do die. People are injured. But as I said before, Thomas James is in the club with his newfound family out there in Colorado Springs, and he jumps into action with someone firing a live arm, grabs the gun from them, and puts them into submission and holds them in place and waits for the cops to come. Now, he didn't pull the gun and put it back on them end their life. Although, like, you know, is a group of people who say that he should have, but he leaped into action in a setting where there was nothing but chaos, in a club where people are dancing, trying to have a good time, and he jumps into action, grabs the gunman, puts him down, and with him and one of his other buddies, they wait for the authorities to arrive and turn him over. He suffered burns on his hands, some minimal injuries with that, but for the most part, very unscathed by that, and
amazing.
Stopped what could have been even worse than the number of people.
That's a perfect example of the values we just talked about,
100%.
right? Like honor, like honoring your training, honoring your community, taking care of them.
Yeah.
Duty, like it's my duty to stop and to protect and provide. Courage, like you got to have a lot of fucking courage to run after a guy with a gun. Strength, mentally, emotionally, physically, like you have to be in a position where you can actually do something. You know, I think perfect example of traditional masculine values leading in a way that create a safer environment, that protect people, that serve people, and also display like what true courage and leadership is.
Yeah, because the opposite would be self-serving. I'm going to flee and run when he has the opportunity to, and how much worse would it have been had he not stepped up and protected?
Yeah. He either stays there and he hides and the firing continues. Maybe he gets shot. Maybe his friends get shot. But
how many others do? Yeah. Or he steps in, steps up, and takes action. I fucking love this.
Also, he was not armed either. Yeah. He went after him without a gun. Because I imagine if he had a gun, he probably would have opened fire and tried to shoot him rather than grab the gun from the guy.
How much more courageous do you have to be to go attack a guy with a gun being defenseless? I mean, right? Not having a gun yourself. I mean, it's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it started a little dark, JR.
It did. I know.
And it's still unfortunate to all the families and everybody impacted by that. Obviously, prayers out to you guys. Still a dark story, but I think a really good testament to the opportunity we have as men to protect and serve and step up.
It is a tragedy with the people who were killed and the people who were injured, but it's also just, you know, think about the people who lived too 100%. From it, and their lives can now continue because of his own actions. You know, it's terrible what happened. No one, and that's why, like, you know, I don't want to talk about the gunman, but his actions saved lives.
100%.
Great example.
Well, that's gonna do it for episode 7 of The Beardsman.
007.
007. Told him I thought about wearing a suit because it's 007.
Yeah, we should have coordinated that.
Should have.
Yeah.
Oh, well. We'll do 008
Run it back.
next week. All right. Let's reset the cameras. All right.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We know there's a million things you could be doing right now. And if you chose to listen to this show, we deeply appreciate you. Thank you for the gift of your time and attention. If you need anything, you can hit us at support@LiveBearded anytime. We're here to help you with all the things. Until next time.
Live bearded.